One man is on a quest to catch and master every Pokemon. From Abomasnow to Zygarde, he won't stop until his Pokédex is complete. And this is basically all a favor to a family friend. Today, it's all about Red. We're covering his development, lore, and legacy in this week's Hero Unlocked. Man, do you ever wonder what Magikarp tastes like? First released in Japan of 1996, Pokemon Red and Green aimed to capture the essence of the game designer Satoshi Tajiri's childhood passion. As a child, he would capture and collect different insects, and thus you can kind of see the similarities to Pokemon. The character that we now know as Red wasn't actually named Red until Generation 2. His original name was actually Satoshi. The games themselves went through several different naming options before settling on the iconic name. Originally, the games were to be called Capsule Monsters, then they went on to being Capumon, and finally, Pocket Monsters. But how do you market such a creation? Well, it helps when you have two different versions of the same collecting-based game that each contain different creatures. This strategy not only helped highlight the trading aspects of the games, but prompted people to purchase both copies of the game if they didn't want to have to trade with, actual people. In Japan, Pocket Monsters Red and Green hit the shelves and exploded out the door. A few months later, Blue did the same thing, except instead of shelves, it was mailboxes, because the Japanese version of Blue was only available through the mail. Now you must be asking, wow narrator, that's really cool and all, that, that all happened in Japan, but what the Hello Kitty happened in the States? Well, that is an interesting story. While translating the game's language to English, they found that the original versions of the games couldn't be translated in the normal fashion. There must have been some sort of issue with the source code. This is why in the States, we received the more modern version of the games based on Pocket Monsters Blue. After an astounding $50 million in advertisement and promotion, Pokemon Red and Blue were released to the North American masses, and believe it or not, they liked it. A lot, in fact. In October of 1999, Pokemon Yellow was released in North America. This game was a special edition of Red and Blue that was made in order to reflect the events of the anime series. The biggest draw for this game was that people were given Pikachu as their starter. However, as far as the Pokemon comics go, which we will touch on briefly later on, Yellow is actually a separate character from Red entirely. The same goes for Blue, who is known as Gary in the anime. In 2009, remakes of Red and Blue were made in Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green. These games followed the events of the previous games almost exactly. However, these games were given compatibility with the previous titles, Ruby and Sapphire. This is why you can use Pokemon from Hoenn in Kanto. These games also came bundled with the Game Boy Advance wireless adapter, which allowed people to trade Pokemon without the need for a link cable. Obviously. And that's about the end of Red's playability. Red's appearances have been relegated to cameos more than anything after the release of the first titles. However, he does get a spotlight in quite a few forms of media. In 2013, Red appeared in a 4-part miniseries by the name of Pokemon Origins. The series follows the events of Pokemon Red and Blue, so to speak. There are a few differences that should be noted. First and foremost, Red has a freaking voice. Throughout the events of the game, Red only ever communicated through affirmation or denial, except for when he met the copycat, which was kind of weird, but even that's a point of debate. Another distinction is that Pallet Town, where Red is from, isn't exclusively comprised of 2 homes and a laboratory. In the miniseries, it is much, much larger. In the Pokemon mangas, the character Red is based once again on the games. However, in one of the mangas, he's followed by his Clefairy. What's more, this manga features some very subjectively wonky and off-putting elements. For example, Pokemon could often speak to humans, like actual language. But this isn't the strangest thing, as in the anime there are several Pokemon who can talk to humans there. It's in Pokemon Adventures where it really gets strange. In Pokemon Adventures, we follow Red yet again. However, it's a bit darker. As in, Pokemon die. Like, brutally. Die. Because, it's for kids.
Phew. So I got my badge. All I have to do now is make it to the Pokemon Center and...
Red is just a kid from Pallet Town, a lovely little place where we can assume has its own area code despite not having any roads, city hall, or any semblance of government. In this town resides another child by the name of Blue. At the age of 11, Red and Blue are called over by the town's resident Pokemon professor. He gives the boys one of 3 Pokemon to start their journey, as well as a Pokédex to help document the discovery of new Pokemon. As Red journeys through the land of Kanto, he also challenges the heads of each town's gyms in order to gain badges. Once a trainer requires 8 of these, they are permitted entrance into the Pokemon League to challenge the Elite Four. After receiving several of these badges, Red makes his way into the Game Corner, a gambling hall that allows players to play games like slots in order to gain coins which can be exchanged for prizes like actual Pokemon. It should be noted that they allow children into this gambling hall, which should be a red flag to anyone who enters. Well, while in this Game Corner, Red makes his way downstairs into Team Rocket's secret base. Team Rocket being a group of scoundrels that use Pokemon in order to commit various crimes. After finding a key to a lift within the base, Red faces off with the boss of the organization named Giovanni. And he beats him, because protagonist. Another interesting and notable situation that happened in this game involves Lavender Town. In this town resides a tower that houses the graves of dead Pokemon. While traveling up this tower in order to rescue a man by the name of Mr. Fuji, Red encounters an angry ghost of a Marowak. This Marowak cannot be captured through normal means, and Red has to either defeat it or run away from it. Now, this story is relevant because Mr. Fuji himself has some pretty interesting lore of his own that doesn't appear in the game. He plays a much bigger part of Pokemon the first movie than a lot of people actually realize, but we'll come back to that. Toward the beginning of Red's journey in Viridian City, he notices that the gym in the town was locked. After collecting the 7th of the 8 badges, he returns there to find that the leader of this gym is actually Giovanni. Cue twist music. He then defeats him again through sheer protagonism and gains the last badge to challenge the Pokemon League. After defeating the 4th of the Elite Four, Red finds out that Blue had actually done this task right before him, so in order to become the champion, he must defeat Blue one last time. Which he does, thus earning him the title of the strongest Pokemon trainer in all of Kanto. And kind of Johto.
Hey, Pincer! Use guillotine!
What the hell?
Say something, I'm giving up on you.
After becoming the champion, Red's appearances have been rather sparse and almost random. He appears in Generation 2 as a sort of endgame boss. He's found in Mount Silver for absolutely no reason other than it's a tough place to get through. In Black 2 and White 2, Red participates in the Pokemon World Tournament. And most recently, Red played a part in Pokemon Sun and Moon as he and Blue were both parts of the battle tree towards the tail end of the game. At this point, both Red and Blue have actually aged, which I mean is pretty freaking cool. And that's pretty much it for Red as far as gaming goes. But in Pokemon Adventures, the more popular of the manga series, Red has a pretty different story. For example, there are 3 main protagonists in Adventures: Red, Blue, and Green. Green is a young female con artist who steals a Squirtle from Professor Oak. During some of the events of the series, Professor Oak himself is kidnapped by none other than Team Rocket. They did so in order to force him to create Mewtwo, Mewtwo being a clone of Mew. This is a different set of events from the anime and games, as Mr. Fuji is believed to be the one responsible for creating Mewtwo, as evidenced by the origin of Mewtwo. The origin of Mewtwo was an animated short that took place before the events of Pokemon the first movie. Another notable difference in the manga is that the Elite Four are evil. In the games, the Elite Four are random people who are just supposed to be tough trainers. In the manga, they're given a bit more motivation in that they believe that Pokemon and humans are not supposed to cohabitate, and they use their own Pokemon in order to create havoc and destruction. You know, good old-fashioned Poke-terrorism.
Caleb? What in the world are you doing?
I'm making animals fight until they lose consciousness.
Oh. Well, at least it isn't drugs. Dinner's in 10 minutes, so, finish up.
Pokemon is a worldwide phenomenon, one that has the longevity that many other franchises could only dream of. This is a franchise that garnered the attention of children almost instantly and followed many of them into their adulthoods. We now even have elderly Pokemon fans due to games like Pokemon Go hitting mass audiences, likes of which mobile games never have. And this all began with a little boy from Pallet Town. Red has made his way into many different forums. From the games, TV shows, manga, to musicals, Red's legacy has been felt everywhere. He's even returning in the most recent Super Smash Bros. Game. In Pokemon Sun and Moon, we saw what many Pokemon fans would consider extremely profound, and that was Red in his adult years. While the protagonist you use in that game is 11, it's still pretty interesting to see the character that many of us played with in our childhood join us as an adult in our adult years. I think this is partially why Pokemon keeps going back to Kanto. For many people, this is the definitive Pokemon region. This is where it all started. Nostalgia in that respect is extremely powerful. And I don't think this is the last time we'll see Red in the Pokemon canon. I mean, we're going back to Kanto again in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. So to what capacity are we going to see him? Well, I don't know. Well, personally, I'd love to see a game in which we play as an adult Red or Blue. I think the implications of being an adult Pokemon trainer are far different than that of a child Pokemon trainer. But that's just one possibility. In the film or TV space, there are many other possibilities for the character. Like maybe a miniseries on why Red was in Mount Silver in Pokemon Gold and Silver in the first place. Like really, how many children do you know that just chill in caves like this? That's not healthy. Thanks for watching. Stay perfect.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy the content, please like and comment below.
And while you're down there, make sure to subscribe because we do videos like this every week.
Stay perfect.